This is the first Fit Labs Productions Wednesday webinar with Travis Elliott. How you doing, man?
Hey, Doc, what's going on, buddy?
So we're going to have you. Thank you so much for joining us to get into the rack position. You've had a lot of experience. We've worked together for a couple of months now, and we look forward to having your story and everything like that.
Oh, no doubt. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. We're just going to check our mic levels and we'll get everything linked up in a second. So we're about to go into our presentation. So real quick, I'm going to go into screen sharing for a second. Everything good? All right, cool. So we're about to get this started. Let's start the first one. Okay. And this is, once again, this is the Fit Labs webinar Wednesday. It's December 2nd, and this is how to get into the rack position for weightlifters. Okay, so the first thing is thanks for stopping by at the Weightlifting Cafe. You can get us at Twitter, at FitLabs, fit_labs, or on Instagram at FitLabs Productions. So we're out here, we're having a blast, and we answer all of your questions and all that kind of stuff. Real quick, before we start this, shout outs to MASH Elite, MASH Mafia, and all those guys in North Carolina, and also Train Aggressive. So we've been working with both parties for a little while, and we're just trying to bring excellent content. So thank you very much for making this webinar possible. To get things started, we're just checking our lines one last time, and then we'll get this webinar started. So hold on for 10 seconds. Okay. You see the Weightlifting Cafe? Okay. All right. We just got the go-ahead from my producer, aka my wife in the other room. We can continue with this webinar. So the first step that we're going to be talking about is who I am. My name is Doc Williams, and I create content for coaches and athletes. And basically what we do is we make sure that we're bringing a holistic approach to our programming, to all the different things that we're trying to do. And we come up with ideas, we create content for a lot of different businesses, and we also make it on different platforms and mediums. So we create videos on YouTube, tutorials. We've done a TV show called Lose It Hagerstown, where we actually had a cable network show that brought 12 contestants together to work out and have a healthy lifestyle. It was the 5th most obese city in the United States, according to many different census last year, with over 36.8% obesity rate. So we got to work with 12 athletes and we got them healthy. We do one-on-one training where we're actually building a protocol for you, and we also do remote training. To make sure all of this content is shared throughout, we have a podcast and also a blog, which we'll link you in later on. But we're just about trying to have people reach their full potential in whatever sport or avenue that they're trying to do. So today we're going to be talking about getting into the rack position. And this is a resource guide to get you to the next level. We get a lot of questions how we do this. So we said, why don't we just give the people what they want? We make a webinar real quick for them, and it'll be good times. So today we're going to be giving you the resource guide. We'll be talking about what causes so much pain for a lot of athletes, and specifically this one's for weightlifters, what we see, and it helps them what they need to do. So we're specifically talking about getting into the rack position for weightlifters today. And we're going to be talking about 3 main areas. But before we start that, we need to have an agenda and talk about what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be talking about the problem with rack position. We're going to be talking about the 3 jacked up areas that people have, a progressive protocol, and then we're going to be talking about results. And that's when we're going to be talking to Travis Elliott a little bit later. So the first problem is the rack position. Why do people have so much trouble with it? We have seen a lot of different athletes, and we have a couple ideas why people are having trouble with it. So before we get there, you need to know who this guy is. Like, I'm just some random guy. Someone might have invited you to be on this webinar, and you might be like, why is he even qualified to even speak to me? Why did I even log in onto this? So real quick, my name is Doc Williams again, and I'm a movement technician, and I help athletes regarding body mechanics. And I've helped athletes that are brand new and also athletes that are seasoned in the sport, and they just need a couple critiques here and there about movement to get them to that next PR. So I've been a physical therapist assistant for over 7 years now. Also a physical therapist assistant, massage therapist since '07, chiropractic assistant, and also a CrossFit level 1 trainer. I used to have a box for a few years, and then I moved on and started building Fit Labs, which is functional integrated training. And that facility, we started branching out more because we started just building teams for competitions and other events. So we broke away from just doing the conventional classes, but really built niches on different athletes and different types of demographics to get them to the next level. So I also serve as the massage therapist for the DC Brawlers, and they are undefeated for 2 years. So I've been with them for 2 seasons. Coincidence? I think not. So I've been working with those guys. Wonderful, wonderful organization. So shout out to them and all that they do. Taylor Stalling, Becca Day, all those girls, great, great, great competitors. Also earlier this year, in March in 2015, I came in 3rd place as America's Next Great Trainer, and they had athletes and coaches really from all over the United States to compete. So I got in 3rd place for that. Along with that, I've worked with a number of brands: SweatRx, Muscle and Fitness, once again MPGL, and then also ESPN and ESPNW. I was their main freelance writer for all their CrossFit articles for 2015, and of course, got to go to the Strength Spectacular at Travis Mash's farm in North Carolina earlier this year. Awesome, awesome event. So got to be around a little bit, and through being with different organizations, working with so many different athletes, I've had the chance to document and also help athletes with this problem. So the first thing is the rack position. Now, what do most people think that they look like? Well, most people think they look like Hendrik Ferris. They're looking great. They get their elbows nice and high. They're a great position to receive the weight. But normally, what does their rack position normally look like? Well, the struggle is real. It's usually a little jacked up like this. Most athletes, when they're first coming in, they're having trouble getting into that rack position, and it's not natural. You're not normally in that position in life, so we see a lot of difficulties. We see the elbows a little bit low. We see people trying to struggle, hold on to the bar, but they're just not getting it. So we see a lot of this, and it's very common in the gyms. So what's the main benefit of the rack position from going from here to something like here? Well, there's really 2 main benefits of having the rack position. Number 1 is standing up. While you're receiving the weight and standing up, the rack position increases the balance and stability by having the center of mass in the correct position. So that first part is when you're receiving that weight, if you're not having a proper rack position, you're going to dump the weight forward. Plain and simple. If you don't have a strong rack position, you're going to be struggling. You're going to be fighting against all of this weight, and you're just not going to be in an optimal position. Even if you stand up and struggle, you've just spent all of that energy from your core stabilization muscles, your core and your erector spinae, all of your back muscles to even do that. So you just wasted all that energy just to stand up. The rack position helps you to be able to be more proficient and stand up correctly. And once again, the rack position helps you with getting out of the bottom position and standing up. So that's the main thing. The second part is going into the jerk. So transferring the power into the jerk, you have to have a strong rack position to first keep the bar close to your body, and then when you're dipping and then driving, you're having all of that energy from the bar going into a lockout position. That's only done proficiently with heavy weight or at you're close to your 3-rep max by having efficient rack position. Now, when you're doing that, the power transfers from the legs, from the hips, from everything generates, and then the weight's on your shoulders, and then you can accurately basically push that weight above your head, transfer that power all the way to where it needs to be, to that bar. And we have a few examples of this, and shout out to Hook Grip for allowing us to use these pictures. We're going to see a couple different lifters. We're going to look at one lifter from Spain, and we're going to see first receiving the weight in the bottom position and then the jerk. So the first one is receiving the weight. Going and getting into rack position and dropping down into the squat, that's the strongest position that you can have, having a strong rack position. And then if we look off to the side, driving out of the bottom position, getting up, the rack position helps keeping the weight back where it's supposed to be, not dumping the weight forward, and that allows the athlete to have a solid clean. Okay, so having the clean position, we can't even get to the jerk if we don't stand up, right? So making sure that we're in optimal position, making sure that we can drive out of the bottom, that's the most important. Now, we just went through standing up out of the clean. Then we naturally go to the jerk, the second portion of the lift. Now, before we can even do the jerk, we notice that many people have different positions on the bar before they do the jerk. But it doesn't change that a rack position is still performed. You're not going to see someone that just has the bar hanging out in front of them. They're just straight gripping it before they do the jerk. And if they do that, they're not being efficient with transferring the power into the bar and performing the jerk. So we see that it helps you to lift more weight. So some people say, well, you know what? I can still do clean and jerk. I don't have the best rack position. Yeah, that's true. But think about how much more weight you could jerk overhead if you had a proper rack position. So once again, having those two sections covered and being efficient in them, that's going to make all the difference. So we have this, the clean and the jerk, and what's the next portion? Well, now we're going to look at a case study. Travis Elliott is going to talk about what we did, talking about getting rack position. We're going to talk about how he benefited from this and where he was and where he went. So, Travis, you there?
Yeah. Hey, brother.
Hey, man. Hey, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you are right now in weightlifting?
Yeah, absolutely. I did my degree in exercise science at Appalachian State and came down and joined the MASH Mafia weightlifting team underneath Coach MASH probably in late summer. After that, really kind of started to change my exercise from just kind of general preparation to really sport specific weightlifting. And I started to realize gearing up for my first contest that I was having horrendous elbow pain, and it was keeping me from really getting into a good rack like you're talking about. So I just kind of really just competed anyway. Didn't really have a plan. Was looking up every Kelly Starrett video that I could, and nothing seemed to work for exactly what was going wrong with me. Went to the Strength Spectacular, and I actually saw you working on Doug Larson from the Barbell Shrug crew. I was like, oh, word, this is a guy that Barbell Shrug brought with him. And I was just kind of doing barbell work because I was competing the next day. And Doc walked over and was like, hey, man, what's going on? I was like, oh, dude, just hanging out, getting ready to compete tomorrow. And you could tell that I wasn't moving right. You could tell there's a whole lot of pain, or at least something caught your eye. So he started looking at me. It's like, what's going on? It's like, well, I've got a really bum elbow. I can't get into this rack position strong at all. So I think it's the next day came to the Strength Spectacular and you had your table set up. And I think about 20 minutes before we started taking warm-up attempts, you were like, give me about 15 to 30 minutes and let me work on it and see if we can get everything opened up. So that's about the time that I guess the world got flipped upside down for me. You worked on me for about 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes or so, and went through snatches and hit an all-time snatch. I didn't PR. I tied my best snatch ever. And then this photo that you're showing is my best clean and jerk from the day. And this was the first time I've ever cleaned with all fingers on, maintaining a hook grip. And yet I still haven't replicated this because, we're a state apart from each other. So just a testament to the service is the fact that I haven't been able to get back into this position as cleanly since you and I kind of worked together.
Man, yeah, and it was great working with you, great meeting you, and yeah, man, a lot of different mechanical things that we can do, but once again, it didn't take that long. How did you feel after everything? How did your to get into this position? How did it feel?
Oh, it's fantastic, brother. It felt normal. From I guess a few months of going through a training cycle and a taper, and really feeling restricted, it felt normal. It felt like you could move optimally. Um, so just to be able to put that bar on top of your clavicle and maintain a full grip and get those elbows high without it being painful was remarkable. It's completely different than the whole training cycle that I went through up until that point.
Yeah, and we're gonna have you on in a second. We're gonna show a couple before and after pictures while we worked remotely together. But thanks, man, for telling your story. And what are some of your goals going into 2016 as well?
Looking into building up into another competition. I'm in I missed AO by maybe about 10 kilograms.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to the MASH Mafia. They're flying out today or tomorrow. We're going down to Reno with our 8 on-site guys and I think 40 of Coach Mash's online weightlifters. And we're going out to AO to win it, baby. Hopefully we're going to bring back some medals. So big shout out to those guys. But just gearing back up for contests, trying to get healthy. Still dealing with some ailments and some things. So just chasing PRs, man. Hit 300 clean, wasn't able to get it overhead due to a crappy rack. So 137 kilos, that's going overhead. Hopefully hit that 115 snatch. So just working on big numbers.
Yeah, man, awesome. Then thanks for being here with us. We're gonna tie you in a second. I'm gonna go through a couple slides with you, and then I'm gonna ask you to come back. Is that all right, Travis?
I love it, brother. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so yeah, working with Travis, it has been a real eye-opening experience. Once again, working with the different athletes at MASH Mafia, and you're going to be seeing a lot of their athletes coming up. It really does matter a lot to get those numbers up by having a good rack position. So Travis, we've been working together first in person just at one time, but also this is a before and after picture of Travis while we did a couple things remotely. So one picture is before, and then after about 2 sessions that we did remotely over on just using FaceTime, showing him different techniques that we're about to show you guys, he was able to have the rack position on the after picture, which is on the right of your screen. That's about 35 to 38% of functional mobility again in his rack position before he goes overhead, which is amazing. Just having 2 different sessions to be able to do that. So that's wonderful. And today we're going to be talking about how you can replicate the same thing. And then Travis is going to be on real quick to talk about this as well. So that's the before and after. But there was no real, how can we say, like secret sauce or anything. There was just a couple things that we worked on. The 3 key areas for rack position, we looked at the wrist flexors, the triceps, and then also the deltoid and the real delt. Now, that's the basics. Yes, we work on with other clients, thoracic spine, all that stuff. But for Travis, just to do these things, to increase the rack position that much, we looked at these 3 areas. And the reason that we do wrist flexors, then triceps, then deltoids are a couple different reasons. A lot of times we have questions, well, why don't we work more proximal and then we go distal? This is really important that we look at starting first at the wrist flexors. And the reason we do that is because we elongate the tendons where people have trouble just putting the rack position and keeping their fingers on the bar. A lot of times we see first the flexors just are so tight and people aren't working that they can't even get into that position. The next position that we go to is then the triceps. And the reason we have two areas is so you can see it at different angles, but we're really working the tendon and the attachment site closer to the elbow first. And that's because we're working all the muscle, the fascia, the tissue, the tendons around that area. And then that elongates the muscle, which allows us to get into rack position easier. And then the last position is the deltoid. And we talk about the rear delt and how that's supposed to be when you're in that fully rack position. And that's it. It's the wrist flexors first, triceps, and deltoid. Now, some people are like, I know that, okay? I know what attaches. Well, what makes this so different? Well, the three areas for trigger point are what we just talked about. We hit trigger points by a way of basically massaging and going through the different motions of the different areas that will actually show you. But that's what we targeted. The wrist flexors, then we went to tricep brachii, and then the rear delt. And we lengthened all of the different muscles and tendons in that area to get those results. It was all trigger point and talking about performing that throughout the day. Now, the main thing that we have about this is when we have this self-evaluation guide, which we give you, it's really about how you feel. Rain, snowing, where you're at, or on your calendar, you need to know how you're feeling. A lot of times people just lift and they're like, oh, that feels weird. Let me just keep doing whatever I'm doing. And they don't take the time to see what's going on. So this is really a self-evaluation. Before you start working on these trigger points and what you need to do, it's about evaluating what area of these three that you feel is restricted when you're in the rack position. So once you're at these 3 points, then we can apply the trigger points and really you start seeing results. So once again, we send you the videos, but that's the first section. We're evaluating those 3 areas and then we work on it, okay? So it's not just mobility to skill. A lot of people think, well, I do stuff from K-Star, I start looking at these things, I'll have mobility, and then I'm just going to straight up have a great rack position. Well, that's not the case. There's a series of steps that you need to do next to be able to do that. So what should you do? You need to first look at the blueprint for feeling the best, for being the best. Now, today, all we talked about was stability. Now, there's really 4 main areas to get to the skill. If you notice, most people go from the mobility, the ability to initiate through functional range of motion. They get like 63% more range of motion, and then they go straight to the kill. They go to the skill, and they think that they're going to be able to start breaking PRs and everything like that. Now, it's true that you're going to be able to break PRs for a little bit, but if you don't build up stability and controlled mobility throughout it, you're not going to be able to sustain it. And that's what we see. We see so many athletes. They see a couple of mobility videos. They think this is the next step. And then what happens 3 months, 6 months later, they get injured and they just plateau. And that's because they had the mobility, but they didn't build up capacity. And then they didn't also build posture through the motion. So they don't have the control. So just today, we talked about the stability, maintaining a proper position while receiving weight, while getting into the clean position. We still have to build controlled mobility, and then we ultimately get to the skill. So what we're doing is we have an exclusive preview of FitLab Studios, and what we're doing is we're inviting everyone to try this out for free. We're going to be limiting to this about 25 athletes, what we're going to do. So whatever 25 athletes come first, we're going to do remote training for you for free. We're just going to show people that it can work and also build a progressive guide for each athlete. So you can go and see a preview at fitlabstudios.com. You can sign up. You can email us. You can do whatever you want. It says get started. It says I want to get started, and email us. So that's fine. You can go to FitLab Studios, see what we're about, see our remote training and all that stuff, and get started afterwards. But this is going to be an exclusive preview of the school that we're going to be building. And this is what the front of the school is looking like right now. It's going to be on Teachable, and right now you're enrolling for free, but it's getting into the rack position for weightlifters, and you learn to increase shoulder range of motion in 4 easy steps. And the 4 easy steps go into building mobility, stability, controlled mobility, and then the skill. So we're going to be inviting you, invite your friends, whatever you want to do, any athlete that's in your gym. We're going to limit it to 25, the first 25 that you come to us. We're going to do it for free, and we're going to start building a protocol. We have a lot in place already, PDFs, everything like that, but we're going to start adding video content, just like what I was talking about, working with Travis Elliott, and then also another lifter from Nash Mafia, Malcolm Moses, will also be joining us as well. So you're going to be seeing their transformation process in the near future. Now, the next part is to get your next PR. You have to sign up. You have to do this. This is going to be Weightlifting Movement 101. And we're going to be working on all of your nuances. So you're going to be given free access to our e-course, and we're helping you how we helped all the other athletes that either work with us remotely or we've had the pleasure to work with in competition. So I've got to be with over 500 athletes now throughout the years, and to help them reach their goal, I'm trying to do the same for you. So please contact us. If you don't want to go to our website, hit us up on FitLabs, on Twitter, fit_labs, or at FitLabs Productions on Instagram. Real quick before we end, Travis, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Travis, could you just tell the good people just one more time what you have received while we've worked remotely?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was kind of impressive how, like I mentioned it before, I looked up every video online you could find about mobility, and to the point where it's so overwhelming that nothing worked. And the biggest thing was I got to a point where I was like, look, I'm a lifter and I'm installed on a platform. I can't do the thing that I love. I've got to get professional help. And I just reached out to you because we'd worked together that one day and I had the best performance of my life. I was like, hey, man, I need a specific coach. I need someone who's going to tell me exactly what I need for what's wrong with me, because everybody's a little different. I've got an office job, so I sit all day. So it's one of those things where, we went through a couple sessions. You had me send you a couple videos just kind of working with a broomstick for what mobility I had. And you're like, cool, no problem, I got this. We set an appointment. And, over maybe 2 30-minute conversations, you were like, look, this is what you need to do. Do this 8 to 12 times before you get into the rack. Do it 8 to 10 times before you clean. Do it during the day 1 or 2 times and see if it doesn't help. And, I didn't hit a crazy PR, but the weight that I was able to hit that training session, the next training session, was remarkably light. Just exactly what you showed earlier when you're in that rack position and you're holding the bar like a military press. When you dip and drive, you're losing all of your force. And the biggest thing is like when that bar's setting on your trunk and you can drive up off your chest. I mean, you make 100 kilos feel like 50 kilos. And it's just one of those things where it turned the world around for me. So couple quick sessions and just really point specific what I needed, which was, what you're not going to get just looking out, Googling, ow, my wrist hurts when I get into a front rack.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Travis. Thanks for being on. And once again, Travis, we're going to have you on throughout the podcast so they can see your journey throughout the year. And thanks, man, for taking the time for seeing us.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. If you guys want to follow my lifting journey, check me out on Instagram at Trav Goes Lifting, TRAV Goes Lifting. Look forward to those episodes with Malcolm Hampton. That's my homie. That guy is, you think I'm immobile, this guy is a super strong power lifter who wants to start weightlifting as well. So he's got a lot of, Doc, you got your work cut out for it. It's going to be really exciting to watch.
I just look at those eval videos and I'm like, oh my God.
Dude, that is my homie. Yeah, I got to put Malcolm on for a second. The kid's in medical school. Did his first powerlifting meet and almost went elite, and now he wants to start weightlifting. So it's awesome.
That's just disgusting strength, and he has just the world ahead of him. So awesome stuff, awesome stuff. Well, then this is what we're gonna do. I guess from here, let me exit out, and let me exit out right here. Stop sharing. Okay, hold on, that you won't see this craziness happening. All right, we're back. Oh my goodness, hold on one second. Okay. All right, you see me?
You're there, sir. We got you.
Awesome. All right, then. This ends the first. And look, Malcolm's hit me up right now. I'm not sure if you can see that. So this ends our first session, really. And once again, thank you so much for joining us. And you're going to be seeing a lot of us in the next couple of weeks and months. Please check out the website, fitlabstudios.com. We're going to be seeing you soon. And once again, thank you for spending a half an hour with us this afternoon. Take care.